McCarthy to the Atlanta Rotary today. As most of you know, Barry McCarthy is President and CEO of Deluxe and has been since November of 2018. And most importantly, he has helped lead the transformation of this organization from a legacy check and business forms printer into a trusted payments and business technology company. Did you know Deluxe processes $3 trillion in annual payment volume? That's roughly 15% of the US GDP. So it is a significant organization, not just here in Atlanta, but also across the world. Barry himself is an entrepreneur. He's an internet cloud and mobile payments pioneer. He's an author of Small Business Revolution, How Owners and Entrepreneurs Can Succeed. And he is executive producer of a TV show, an Emmy-nominated TV show called Small Business Revolution, which you can find on Hulu or Amazon Prime. Barry began his career at Procter & Gamble and has held executive roles at First Data, Wells Fargo, VeriSign, and Silicon Valley startup MagnaCash. He's deeply involved in this community. He earned an MBA from Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University and a bachelor's degree from University of Illinois. So please join me in welcoming Barry McCarthy.
Well, it's a privilege and honor to be here with you all today. I want to start by acknowledging to have an opportunity to tell the story about Deluxe and the things that we are so proud about in Atlanta is an extraordinary opportunity ever, but to have that opportunity to talk to business leaders like you is a special honor. I also recognize it's a special honor that this is the first meeting of John's new tenure as your president on the 110th anniversary year. It's pretty extraordinary, so thank you, John, for the honor of being here at all, but especially for this first session. I think all of us owe John a huge debt of gratitude for all the things that you do for our community. There's probably no one in this room or in our community that lives the values of giving back more than you do, and so very grateful. I got to meet John when I first moved here in 2009, and he was the one that really started getting me introduced to the community, and we've maintained a connection all this time. So I thought what I would do to start with is just tell you a little bit about me, then I'll tell you a little bit about Deluxe, and then I'll tie that all together on why Atlanta is so important to our company, and honestly to our global economy in ways that most people here probably don't recognize. So Katie gave you a little bit about my background. One of life's great ironies is that I started my career at Procter & Gamble selling shampoo. And although you might not believe it, I was actually a really good shampoo salesman. I worked my way up, and so I know lots about deodorant, I know lots about laundry detergent. I'm a really fun department. So I went on from there to run a big chunk of the consumer bank at Wells Fargo, delivered the ATM. So if you go to any Wells Fargo ATM today, you see that full motion video screen. I did that back 150,000 years ago. I went on to start a micropayments company that was purchased, then I went to run the VeriSign payments business that we sold to PayPal, and if you use credit cards using PayPal today, that was technology that I helped engineer back in the day. And then I spent 14 years at First Data, and I started with a company in Denver, and I was part of the team that moved the headquarters from Denver to Atlanta. And while I was at First Data, we did a ton of really cool things. Probably the single hallmark thing was the engagement we had in bringing Apple Pay to market. We were the team that did the initial mobile payments pilot in San Francisco with their version of MARTA, fast food restaurants, et cetera, that became Apple Pay. And we were, an inaugural partners on that. And I've been at Deluxe now since the very, very end of 2018. And when I got the call, to be perfectly transparent, Korn Ferry recruiter called me and said, we've got this check company that needs a new CEO, and honestly, I kind of chuckled, is the truth. And I said, don't you guys understand, I've been spending the last 14 years of my life trying to get rid of checks. I run a debit network, I go out credit cards, I just did Apple Pay, like digital wallets are the future. It's probably not checks. And they say, you know what, you need to do a little homework, go understand what the core assets are of that enterprise. and come back to me and tell me if there's something there that you can make great. And that's exactly what I did. And what I found was a 108-year-old company, very proud company, just a little bit younger than all of you and the team here, and the Rotary Club of Atlanta. I'm only the 9th CEO in the company's 108-year history, so very, very proud history. The company has 4 million small business customers, 4,000 master service agreements with most major financial institutions in the United States, and we support hundreds of the world's leading brands. I looked at that and I said, surely, and then we had great cash flow from checks, declining, but great cash flow with really fantastic numbers. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take that on, because what I see in that set of assets is not a check printing company. What I see is a payments company that has not really found its way to the future yet, but a company that has all the core ingredients and the engine and the things that are required to make that turn and make that leap. And that's exactly what we've done over the last 4 to 4.5 years, is we really fundamentally, to the core, transformed the company from being a legacy check printer into a leading payments company. So Katie said we process about $3 trillion a year in payments, whether you process with credit cards, at a terminal, whether you phone in a payment, whether you use a website to make a payment, you mail a check in for a payment. That's us, behind the scenes, processing those payments on a massive scale. Most major banks use our processing system. You would never know it's us, and we're okay with that. We are the engine behind everybody else that makes things work. Very rarely would you see us out promoting deluxe, deluxe, deluxe. Instead, we are partners with financial institutions who use our solution as an ingredient to their package of solutions, and then we just do all the work in the background. Very nice market niche, and we've got a great reputation. We're very proud that Newsweek started a survey of sentiment around trust, and we knew nothing about it in the inaugural survey. Deluxe was the 11th most trusted financial services brand in the world. We scored, thank you. We scored higher than MasterCard, American Express, or PayPal. Deluxe, a company we don't really spend a lot of money on our brand, and a lot of people still think that we're a dusty old check printer. Now, to be clear, we still print a lot of checks, like 150,000 packages a day. But that's not our biggest business anymore. Our biggest business is our payments business and our data business, where we help banks and other organizations identify their next customer. Businesses are very complementary, and the company's growing. I tell you the thing that I'm probably most proud of in the time that I've been with Deluxe is we've taken a company that had not grown organically. We know in at least a decade, and people inside the company that have been with the company a long time said that the company had not grown organically since 1996. Think about that for a second. You have a company that's been in organic decline since 1996. And this is our 3rd consecutive year of organic revenue growth. And we did that not because checks are decelerating. Actually, we're growing share like crazy in check. And check actually slowed down its decline. But it's because we're doing great things in our payments and our data business. And those businesses have great market segments and places where they're competing, and we've been able to help the company grow. And profits growing right along with it. So we're very, very proud that the company today is a fundamentally different company than where it was just a few years ago. And when Katie and I talk about this, about leadership and the notion of transformation, at Deluxe, we truly transformed. A lot of companies talk about transformation, about, well, we want to transform our customer service experience, or we want to make our processing system a little more digital. Yeah, we did that. But we had to fundamentally reinvent what the company was going to be and where the company was going to go. Otherwise, the company really didn't have a future. And so very proud that we've made that turn and that the company is the company that it is today. Now, we still have plenty of work to do. Let me be really clear about that. We have lots of work left to do. But we have passed the point of inflection. We talked a lot about in our first quarter earnings, that we have now passed the inflection point and the company's prospects and where we're headed is really, really clear. A couple other things that I just would want to highlight. Like, well, what the heck are you doing here? Like, why are you here at Rotary? So when I was at First Data, and I see a former First Data friend in the back, and I see lots of other friends from days gone by and days currently, so nice to see you all, by the way. I got pretty involved in the community. That's where I met Timo, got involved in TAG, worked with Doretta at First Data, and what's really in Atlanta that people misunderstand or they don't quite get right is that our city, our community, is the epicenter of electronic payments for the globe. You're like, come on, stop talking, sit down, right? It just happens to be true that more than 70% of the world's electronic payments are managed by companies that are either headquartered in Atlanta or have a significant presence here. Every time you drive up 400, you probably don't ever think about it, but Highway 400 from Lenox Mall past Alpharetta is America's and the globe's transaction alley. And they've sort of trademarked that Highway 400 is transaction alley. At every exit along the way going up 400, there are major payments companies. And the most probably important epicenter is at 400 and 285. So next time you're going through that mess that's being worked on right now, anywhere you look except at the hospitals at that intersection are payments companies. We're the tower in the southwest quadrant. In the northeast quadrant, where the king and queen are, is where Elevon is, and the other quadrant is global payments. On the other side of the mall are other payments companies. You go up the road a little farther, you have FIS, and you go up a little further, and you get Fiserv, which acquired First Data. Everything in payments really happens on the 400 corridor. Our company was founded 108 years ago in St. Paul, Minnesota, by a guy that needed a job. He borrowed $500 from his father-in-law and built a company today with several $1 billion in revenue and publicly traded on the stock exchange. But Minneapolis, as great a community as it is, Minneapolis does not have transactionality. It does not have transactionality. It is not the magnet for talent that Metro Atlanta is, especially around the payments industry. What we have here truly is an economic miracle. That's all you really can say about the focus of what has happened in Atlanta as a result of the pieces of the puzzle snapping together. Last thing I would say is, I think also sometimes we take it for granted because this is where we live and this is the community we know. I have had the opportunity, for better or worse, to be a corporate nomad. I grew up outside of Chicago. My first job, selling shampoo, took me to Cleveland, Ohio, and then Sacramento, and San Francisco, and Cincinnati, and San Jose in the Silicon Valley, Milwaukee, Denver, now Atlanta, and I split my time in Minneapolis. So I think I have a pretty decent insight into, and I spent a fair bit of time in New York along the way, I think I have a pretty decent insight into what makes a community of business leaders special and what makes it great. And this place is really, really special. First of all, look around the room. It's a beautiful July afternoon. Y'all can be doing something else and you came here. Second, the organizations like this organization, but plus organizations like the Metro Chamber, Technology Association of Georgia, Fintech Atlanta, the ATPC, an American Transaction Processor Coalition, the P20, a global payments organization, are all here and all supported. And whether you're a big company, you're a small company, you're a startup, or you're Coca-Cola, business leaders are accessible, they want to be helpful, and genuinely care. And if you look left and you look right, you show up. And that's not something other cities take for granted, because people don't show up. They don't feel the same sense of commitment to community and to the success of the enterprise and the community at large. The only reason this community is as accessible as it is because of the commitment of people like you. So I've been here since 2009. I sensed it from the beginning. It has only gotten stronger. What Atlanta is and what Atlanta offers is extraordinary. And the last thing I will say, and then have Katie come back up, this is a fantastic place to live and raise a family. it's also a fantastic place to recruit talent to. We hired our payments division president out of Barclays in London, happy to come to Atlanta. We hired our CFO out of NCR, already here. We hired our head of technology from American Express, happy to move from Phoenix to Atlanta. Atlanta's a magnet. People know what Atlanta is, and Atlanta is amazing. And it's a privilege and honor to be with you today. It's a privilege and honor to be part of the community and to help grow our 108-year-old company here in Atlanta. Thank you very much.
I was actually surprised to hear you talk about checks that way. So are checks not a dinosaur anymore? Are they making a comeback, or are they just slowing down their decay?
So, can you all hear me? Can I stop? Or do you need this? Can you hear me okay? Okay. So, I'm not here in any way to tell you the checks are the future, because checks are not the future. We have never said that. We've never made a claim on that. But checks are here, and they're going to be here a really long time. And I said it a minute ago, and I kind of just threw it away, but literally 362 days a year, we package and mail 150,000 packages of checks to people and businesses every day. Which means checks aren't going, but there's billions of checks that are out there. Now, the reason checks keep going is we're not talking about consumer checks. No one or very few people write checks at the grocery store.
Oh,
no
they
one,
do.
But the big use case for checks are B2B payments. And where B2B payments are still done in a massive scale, more than 40% of them are done using checks. And that's because they're just not viable substitutes. So we all think about that, and think about a restaurant. And the provision truck shows up at the back door of the restaurant. There is no way $5,000 of steaks and a couple cases of beautiful red wine are getting off the back of that truck if it has been paid for. And the only way to do that feasibly is with the check today. But as much as we like checks, and we're using that money to invest to grow our payments and our data business, we have bet our future on electronic payments and data analysis.
So one of the topics at our table when we were talking about a preferred method of payment, it quickly shifted into a dialogue about which one is safer and more secure. You're now a payments business that's sitting on infrastructure, different types of technology. How do you think about the risk associated with payments today?
Well, obviously the risk in payments is significant. And it's significant in any payment type. Whether you're using a credit card, a debit card, you write a check, cash certainly has risk associated with it as well. There is no such thing as a risk-free payment. The Fed is doing a lot to try to make the traditional systems work faster, which will be at one level a bit more secure, but they still don't have some of the things, for example, the credit cards offer, which is the ability to repudiate a transaction or challenge a transaction. So there is no perfect payment today, but I think all of the different payment types balance different risks. And so it depends on the situation, what the point of the payment is, but they all work, and we've worked really hard at Deluxe to make sure we can manage all of those different types of payments.
We talk about this a lot in banking too, is understand the risk and the trade-off behind each of the types and educate yourself and mitigate them to the best of your ability. But a lot of our day is spent around mitigating fraud and helping our clients navigate that. I heard you talk a little bit about culture and engagement at Deluxe. I see that, or I've read that you have a benefit of a very flexible time off benefit package. In fact, I think you have unlimited paid time off at Deluxe and paid volunteer time. I'm curious how you think about your HR benefits, and maybe if you have an office mandate as well, as a lot of corporations are navigating what this return to office environment looks like and how we balance flexibility with the value of being together in an office without running off our talent.
That was a lot.
Benefits, employee benefits.
We'll start with that. Let me start with the fundamental philosophy, which I think goes also into leadership. fundamentally believe that if your workforce believes in your mission first, second, they believe that they're being compensated fairly or well, and they believe in their leadership, they can do amazing things. And that is our fundamental philosophy about compensation at our company. When we first started the transformation, one of the first things I did, you can imagine the fun I had at my first board meeting, when I went to the board and I said I want to issue 6,500 people equity in the company. But we fundamentally believe that if your interests are aligned with shareholders, that everyone will win. And it's a fundamental part of our company culture, which is we are all owners. That's how we really kicked off the transformation to get people aligned. And then we looked at the benefits, and we do have flexible time off that gives you the opportunity to take the time that you need when you need it on the schedule that you need. You have to work with your manager to make sure that we can make that happen. And I'm not talking about hourly people that are working production line, but for professional staff. We added something called volunteer time off, VTO. Volunteer time off is intended as a commitment to our company's willingness to give back to the community. So we give employees up to 5 days paid to volunteer in the community on things that are important to them. And then we talk about what they did, we publicize it within the company, and I think we gave away 100,000 hours last year from our employee base to our community. So we fundamentally believe in that connection between purpose, community, compensation, and we think we've mostly got it right. Never had it perfect, but we think we mostly got it right. Now, on that whole question about back to the office, give you another philosophical point. And I fundamentally believe that leadership is an apprenticeship program. I don't think that you can learn to be a leader in your basement any more than I believe you can become a great winning baseball team from your basement. From your basement, I think you can work out and be physically fit and have great cardio and be strong. But I don't think that a pitcher throwing a ball to himself in a basement and a catcher catching the ball in the basement by themselves can be much of a team. And a team doesn't become a team on game day. A team becomes a team by all of the practice that leads up to the game day. And so I think that means that people have to be together. And sorry for the sports analogy, if you want to use a symphony example, I'm happy to give you that too. The piano player and the violin and the drummer all have to be playing the same tune. But if you're not all aligned and you don't practice together, I don't know how you're successful together. So our journey has been, I'm sure like most of yours, a little bit circuitous. We started by telling people we want you back in the office more often than not. We trust you to find the right rhythm. More often than not, we then prescribe says it's 3 days. You figure out the 3 days with your manager and your teams. And we found out that didn't really work. Because people said I'm doing my job just fine in my basement, the way I've always done it. And for a company like ours that's going under fundamental transformation.
As John said, we're mixing it up this year, so I would ask you to kindly come forward to a microphone if you have a question. I see one raised hand. Okay, here we go.
Hey, Brad, good to see you.
Likewise, Tracy.
I've seen you lead through First Data. I've seen you lead through Lux. I know you lead socially in the geographic area. I want to ask you, is there anything more about leadership that you would like to share? You've taken a 110-year-old, 108-year-old company and brought people through. Who's this guy from Atlanta? How's he going to do this? How did you keep everyone in faith?
You know, it's a great question. First of all, the leader has to believe. If the leader isn't sort of evangelical zeal that they're going to do it, it's not going to happen. You can't get it done. If the leader doesn't believe and can't inspire other people to follow, it's never going to happen. Just won't happen. And the second thing is just talk to people all the stinking time. Just all the time. That's part of the notion of I'll tell you what I know when I know it. I'm communicating with you all the time. I'm giving you what I got and close to real time as I can. And I think in doing so, people that want to be good followers will step up and do it. The people that don't, you find out pretty fast, and they got to deal with that one way or the other. But you've got to be out front all the time, waving the flag, never tired. You never have a bad day. There is no such thing as a bad day. There is only opportunity. And you can't do, we're just going to go crush this. That was pretty tough, but it doesn't matter. We're still going to go for the prize. Because if anybody ever sees you waver, if they're wavering themselves, it just all falls apart. So you've got to drive non-stop, out, shaking hands, talking to people, non-stop, go, 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 go.
Is it true that Deluxe is owned by Platinum Equity, ultimately?
No.
Pardon me?
No, it's not true. We're publicly traded at NYSE. We have no concentration of shareholders. Platinum, to my knowledge, is not in our stock.
Mr. McCarthy, let me introduce myself first. My name is R.K. Siegel. I used to work for you. You remember me?
RK, everyone knows you.
Thank you. I have two questions for you. Number one, what percent is your business in the payment business versus your check business?
They're about even. The payments business, they're both about a third of the company's revenue today.
Thank you. Next question is, do you compete with the Fiserv now?
You're trying to get me in trouble. Having been at Fiserv,
Thank you.
well, I was never a Fiserv person. I worked for First Lady.
Thank you.
So, I have great respect for Fiserv. And there's some very small, narrow places where perhaps we would see each other in the marketplace. But Fiserv is a really important customer of mine today. Really important customer. For example, they resell some of my payment processing solutions to their bank customers.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Good night.
So Barry, I'm interested in your leadership journey has put you in a unique position that you've been a leader in so many different cities as a senior leader in a business and a senior leader in the community. I'm curious, as you're sort of moving back into Atlanta, have you noticed, you did a great job of articulating a lot of the strengths of Atlanta. Have you noticed any challenges that maybe Atlanta faces that are different than those other geographies that you've been in? And maybe what these leaders can have as a takeaway to be able to address those challenges that Atlanta versus the Denver, the Silicon Valley, New York, etc.
So I gave a long list, BJ, of all the things that I think are great strengths here. The things that we hear from employees as they think about moving to Atlanta, there's a couple of, I would say, themes. People are concerned about public education for their families and their children. They're worried about transportation and what perceived gridlock, although I will personally tell you it's no worse here than anywhere else I've lived. People just like to talk about it more here. And I think the third thing is, the first one was about primary education. Second is about transportation. And the third is secondary education. Community college, trade school, universities. We are still, as a community, net importers of talent. And that's good for the economy overall. But we've got to do a better job of building our own people to take our own jobs if we're going to be a fully self-fulfilling community over time. We're doing a bunch of stuff in the Fintech Academy at the University System of Georgia. You graduate with a degree and a specialization so you can come and work in Fintech. Programs like that, truly revolutionary, nowhere else in the country like that. We need to do a lot more of that. So we have a feeder program to feed the needs of growing businesses with talent.
Dr. Zach.
Thank you, and you set me up perfectly. I'm Lee Zach from Agnes Scott College, and I was waiting for you to mention higher education. It's something here in Atlanta that's so valuable to businesses. All of our students want to know what are the skills that they need. We focus on professional success for all of our students at Agnes Scott. What does that mean to you?
So, maybe I'm going to answer the question slightly differently and tell you what I would love to see in a college, senior applicant. Like if I'm looking at some of his resume, I want to see someone that is proven they can achieve academically, obviously, right? But I don't need somebody that's got a perfect GPA. I'd much rather have somebody that has a really good GPA, at least a solid GPA, that has proven they can lead, and they've dealt with some level of adversity. That's about grit, right? The second thing, I think people need to be able to show that they are comfortable with basic math principles, so that they can come and we can help them, train them from there. They've got to be able to write, they've got to be able to communicate. They've got to be able to present a compelling case about themselves. Like, why should I hire you? And I think if someone can do that, if they're an effective communicator, if they can present themselves well, basic math capability, you just, at that point, you've got raw horsepower that you can train and develop and grow.
All right, I think we have time for these last two questions.
Hi, I'm Don Grossman. I'm with the People in Healthcare in Atlanta. Thank you for your great perspective. The look at something very unique and unusual and different in the industry when you launched the TV program, the Small Business Revolution. When you did that, I think it was unheard of for a B2B company to launch a reality show focused on consumers. Maybe you could tell what the program was, why you did it, and how it contributed to your business.
Yeah, so all the episodes are still out there, and the program was designed. There's all the home improvement shows where somebody buys a house and flips a house. They're not about flipping a business, but it's about helping smaller companies figure out how to operate more effectively and showing them tools, whether it's marketing tools, financial tools, sales tools, inventory management, and showing them how to be a more effective business leader, and then turning that into a show and showing a business that transforms itself over time. And then we did a follow-up program to say how are the businesses doing a couple of years later. Why did we do that? First of all, with 4 million small business customers, we have a lot to say about small business. Second, we think there's just an unmet market need, like a huge demand for small businesses to have support in growing their business. I mean, just the evidence of that is that TV program became the #1 program on Hulu. I mean, a business development, a business show becomes the #1 program on lifestyle segment of Hulu. There's a huge demand, and it's a nice show. But I mean, it's not like you're going to say have to see the next episode. I mean, it's not it's not one of those. But it met a need, and it's still out there. And then we wrote a book. There's a book outside there, by the way, for everybody that I wrote that covers a lot of the same principles, covers a lot about leadership. Another example of it debuted at #2 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. So there is a giant, gaping need for knowledge and information and insight on how to be an effective business leader.
Practical knowledge.
Practical
application. All right, last question, Peter.
And the last question. So again, thank you guys, or thank you for your sharing about how you built trust, through transparency and it's always a vulnerability within your own culture. I'm just curious to see, as a company that is innovating, but has historic customers who have certain relationships with the organization, that is seeking now to expand those relationships, B2B, with new relationships and new customers who don't necessarily have that trust yet. How are you applying that same principle that you use to build your own culture to build those relationships with new customers who might come to see you in a different light?
So we have a model we call One Deluxe. And it means that we want to approach all of our customers, bringing the best of what our company can deliver to solve whatever that customer's problems are. The way the company had been run before, people would walk in and say, I'm here to sell you X, I'm here to sell you Y. You want some checks with that? Would you like some forms? How about some credit card processing? And we changed that model fundamentally to listen to what customers' needs are and instead go in and say, what are the problems that you're having? What are the things that are difficult for you to manage? And it's taken our company from organic decliner to an organic grower. PNC is a great example. Everybody knows PNC Bank, great bank partner. So is Truist, by the way, thank you. Truist is actually the biggest sale in the company history. Thank you. The second biggest, this is true, the second biggest sale in the company history is at PNC, where we're doing data analytics for PNC. We weren't doing all the rest of the things that they needed to do to acquire customers. And not only did we do data for one part of their business, we did data analytics for the whole company, and then we are also fulfilling and helping them actually talk to the customer at the end of the day on a turnkey outsource basis, a multi-$100-million contract over about 6 years. And it happened because we stopped talking and we started listening and understanding what the problems were and then bringing solutions to solve the problem rather than trying to paddle one thing at a time.
Barry, you've done a great job of communicating, and I think the audience has done a great job of listening. 3 key lessons that Barry talked about: build trust with transparent communication, frame the change as a discovery journey, and hire grit. So one of the things we're going to do is 110th anniversary. We're going to make a $110 donation via a payment vehicle through your network to our early
Deluxe payment vehicle, I hope.
To our early childhood education initiative. We couldn't go away without giving you some kind of check. So this is your official check also from the So very quickly, we want to make sure you also pick up a copy of Barry's book on the way out. It's fantastic. You can learn a lot about these leadership lessons. Also, note our upcoming meetings. Next week, generative AI. Anybody heard of that topic, by the way? But it's going to be key because we've got a great panel about how, when, and where leaders like us can use it. And it's very, very important for us, given what we're doing. Second, on July 24th, the Georgia Film Industry 2.0. Been a big topic here recently, ramping up the creative economy and why it benefits all Georgians. July 23rd, we're honored to have Governor Brian Kemp. Thank you for joining us today.